power is a sense of understanding yourself and being able to control yourself. Too much awareness of your bad qualities can paralyze you. The feeling of powerlessness is actually more corrupting than the feeling of having a lot of power. It turns people into being passive aggressive, into playing all kinds of weird games, negative games to get power. It was a very serious effort to try and get at something timeless. Now, yes, there's a dark side to it, and maybe I've moved on from that. And I did, honestly, when I wrote my fourth book, Mastery, I was a little bit concerned that young people we're thinking that the whole game of life is about politics, manipulation. So I wrote a book to kind of counter that. But I think the book is true and it's held up. I think if I look at business, what's going on in the business world, I think I hit it on the nail about what goes on in the dynamics in the power game. I wrote a book on human nature, and the idea is we were formed hundreds of thousands of years ago in particular circumstances. Our brains are wired a certain way. Yes, we're very sophisticated. Yes, we have the internet. Yes, I'm here being interviewed by you on a podcast. It's pretty insane, but we haven't fundamentally changed. The same raw emotions of envy, of aggression, of, worrying about our status, about having to disguise ourselves and appear like we're saintly and loving, that we don't have a shadow, which we all have. None of that has changed. Power is a feeling, it's an essence, it's an emotion, it's a human need and desire. And really, what power is a sense of understanding yourself and being able to control yourself. So the way I look at it, I like to look at it not through the lens of great power politics, but as an average, everyday human being here in the United States or in England. The feeling that you have with your children, with your spouse, with your colleagues, the people who work for you, the sense that you have no control, that you can't influence them with your ideas, that you can't get them to maybe, soften some of their ugly behavior if they have that. You can't get them interested in helping you with a project or whatever. Is the most miserable feeling a human being can have. Malcolm X had a quote that I love, which is, absolute power corrupts, but absolute powerless corrupts even more. I'm butchering it, but that was the gist of it. The feeling of powerlessness is actually more corrupting than the feeling of having a lot of power. It turns people into being passive aggressive, into playing all kinds of weird games, negative games to get power. You want to feel that you have a degree of control over events in your life, over people, over your future. And that to me is what power is, right? And so some of that involves these games that I mentioned in there, and some of it goes beyond the 48 laws of power, which I tried to indicate in my other books. But it's the sense that I'm not helpless in this world. I remember when I first entered the work world as a very naive college graduate with all these ideals and things I'd read, because I studied literature and languages. And man, this is weird. People are playing all these kind of games. I'm in over my head. I made mistakes. I got fired for being, too brash for outshine the master. It was painful. And so learning, you don't have to use the laws of power. I don't advocate crushing your enemy totally. I hope I don't have any enemies ever that I need to crush ever. You just need to know these things so that when you enter the work world, you're not naive, you're not stupid, you don't make the same kind of mistakes that I made. You spare yourself the pain. You understand the most fundamental thing about human nature. People have ego. Even your boss has an ego. You think he or she doesn't because they're powerful. They're even more insecure than other people. You need to be aware of these things so that you don't inadvertently make them feel insecure and suffer the consequences. So that's sort of my idea of power that I was trying to describe there. If you can't control yourself, then you're in a lot of trouble in this world. If you can't control yourself, how can you control anything in your environment? How can you be a leader, right? So you have to learn certain things about your nature, about who you are, and not just be anybody. You have to kind of tailor your appearances as well. Because for good or for bad, I'm a believer in looking at the human animal without shame and embarrassment, just as we are, right? And appearances matter. It's the animal part of our nature. We judge people by how they appear, how they dress, their tone of voice, their body language, etc., etc. It would be, in an ideal world, we wouldn't judge people by appearances. We would just judge them by what's inside of them. Yes, I agree with that. But that we're not ideal. We're not descended from angels. We're descended from primates. So you have to understand that appearances matter. And this is part of the game. And so you have to control your appearances a little bit. You have to tailor it. You have to be a bit of actor in this world. On and on and on. Everything in the book is context. So when you take things out of context, it's a little harder to understand. And what I'm trying to say in that, I'm talking about in the work world, when you're out in the social realm. And one of the worst things that people do is you have a job, and I've been guilty of it myself even after I wrote the damn book. You're out in the work world and you need to hire somebody. You need to find a colleague. You need to find a partner or an employee. Your mind naturally gravitates towards a friend because they know you, you trust them, you have a relationship, and you feel comfortable with them. And it's a terrible mistake. So many of the worst things that have happened in history are because of that very problem. Because friends, there's all these emotions involved between people, right? And those emotions confuse the issue. So what I'm talking about in that law is when you need to get results, you need to think, when you have a job or something, you have to think in practical terms, not in terms of emotions, not in terms of friendship, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to keep your work world separate. It's not everything about life is having to be friends and having nice things and everybody like you. Sometimes what matters is getting results done. And sometimes the best person to work with isn't your friend because they don't have all this other stuff that we're talking about. In fact, a very powerful move is if there's an enemy out there, somebody who you never got along with. If you approach them and say, let's bury the hatchet, I have a job and I'd really like you to work with me. I know you're really smart. The turnaround of emotions is a very powerful thing where they're going, wow, yeah, sure, that's great. I never expected that. And they're highly motivated to now prove that they're worthy of your change of mind. So it's not about not trusting your friends in the realm of friendship in personal relationships. It's about being aware that the work world is different from the realm of personal relationships. In my war book, I read the biography of Mahatma Gandhi, one of the saintliest figures in history, right? And I realized that Mahatma Gandhi was actually a brilliant strategist. Now, I'm not saying his use of nonviolence and civil disobedience didn't come from the heart. He didn't mean it. He didn't actually believe in the peaceful method. He did. He was very sincere, but he was very strategic about it. And he planned a campaign, several campaigns like the Salt March in the 1920s, where he knew, for instance, that the English public was very liberal-minded. They had this ideal of themselves as being they weren't colonialists, they weren't imperialists, they were doing the best for the world. And he deliberately had these marches where he knew that they would be reading in their newspaper and seeing photographs of Indian people being beaten up by Englishmen and their Indian officers on the streets of wherever. It would have a terrible impact on the public. He thought in terms of strategy. Too much awareness of your bad qualities can paralyze you, right? Sometimes it's good to believe that you deserve good things in life, that you have skills, that you have promise, that there's hope for the future. It might be built on nothing. It might be totally unrealistic, but it's important to have those beliefs because they can give you energy, they can give you purpose, and they can give you meaning. If we understood everything about ourselves as an animal and our basic drives, we'd probably all kill ourselves, to be honest. So yeah, it's good to lie to some degree and to feel that you're worth something and that you have goals and that you can reach them. I struggled for over half my life, and I'm in my 60s now. So, but physically weak, physically dependent made me understand what a lot of people have to go through when they have no control over their body, over their work, over their future. It's a terrible feeling, and it gave me a higher degree of empathy for them. I had empathy for them, but it wasn't real. It was just intellectual. Now it was physical. I really understand what it's like to be dependent on others, and it's not a good feeling, and it's sad. And so in that sense, it kind of changed me. And then, you have to think of was it destined to happen? What if that wasp had missed me? Because it could have just flown right by. None of this would have happened.
But then on the other hand, when I had my stroke, I nearly died. My wife saved my life. I was driving a car here in Los Angeles. I came this close to dying, and it was an insane experience. I mean, I've had an experience that very few people have ever had, which is kind of a near-death experience. It changes your mind. It plays with your brain. It plays with how you look at the world. It makes you understand what it means to be alive. So right now, I have this very weird-looking bicycle. It's a recumbent bike, basically a souped-up tricycle that is very light, and I can go up these big hills. And I'm riding my bike, and everybody's passing me. Even 80-year-old grandmothers are passing me because it's not powerful. And I'm thinking, all these people, they take for granted their bodies. They take for granted that they can walk. They take for granted that they can bicycle. They take everything for granted. They're not aware. And I put myself in their bodies and I go, if I were them, every moment I'd be so happy. I'd be so excited because I could walk. I could do things that I can't do right now. But they don't feel that way. And I guess what I'm trying to say is people out there, you should feel that way. Don't take for granted the things that you can do right now. Even a simple thing like taking a little walk. You should be looking out at the world. You should be looking at the sky. You should be looking at the people, the cars, and feel, God damn it, I'm alive. It's insane. But everyone takes it for granted. It makes me kind of angry. And it makes me feel like, in some ways, I'm better off with my stroke because I know how flimsy life is and how it can be lost in a second. And you don't know that, and you're wrong, and you're stupid. So maybe there was something gained from the experience. I'm so upset. Sometimes I can't tell you how upset I get, but it has its advantages, its benefits, in that it gives me perspective on life. It gives me an idea. It makes me less afraid of death. I understand what death is like. I feel it. I felt it. I felt it inside of my body. I'm not afraid of it. It was kind of peaceful. So that's good. And probably made me in some ways nicer, because I'm dependent on other people, So there are things that are good from it. But what was taken away from me is so painful I can't explain to you. It's just so painful that I would never wish it on anyone, because you don't realize what a joy it is to be walking, to be moving. And the other aspect is I'm writing a book. It'll be finished. It'll be out next year on what I call the sublime. You're aware of it because I've talked about it. And I had originally, as I've explained on other podcasts, I originally intended it when I was going to maybe write it 15, 16 years ago or longer, to have all these adventures that I qualify as sublime, like trekking through the Gobi Desert and swimming with dolphins and going to Antarctica. And now I'm writing the book. I can't do anything. All I can do is sit in my goddamn office. I can't even type. I have to handwrite everything. I am so limited. So if I'm writing a book on the sublime, on experiences that take you to another realm, I have to make it so it has nothing to do with money or jetting off to places. It has to do with basic everyday life. What is sublime about the simplest thing in your environment? Because that's all I can suck it out of. In some ways, it's made the book, I think, better. Well, part of being a human being is all of these conventions that we have to abide by, social conventions about how you're supposed to behave, how you're supposed to be around other people, things you're supposed to say, things you're not supposed to say, work conventions, things you're supposed to do on the job and in your career and your future, thinking conventions. These are thoughts that you're supposed to have, that everybody has at this particular moment, where everything is so technological. I could go on and on about it, but everything is like a conventional way of doing. That's what humans are like, right? And I compare it to a kind of a circle that we all live inside, and it becomes a prison. You're like sick of it. You want new things. You want new thoughts. You want new social relationships. You want something new and different that goes outside that goddamn circle. Right? That's what the sublime is. The sublime is, I go through the chapters of it, it's about being aware of how strange it is to be alive, like what I've been talking about. What a miracle, it's the audit, and I explain in the book, the fact that you and I are sitting here in this room talking is so incredibly unlikely. And I explain why it's so unlikely, that if you think about it, everything in your life is like a dream. You can almost believe that aliens are running a program. It's so weird. life is so surreal. I talk about your childhood and how incredibly sublime your childhood was and how you can hold on to it and how you can retain that quality. I talk about our relationship to animals and other species and how we can interact with them. Our consciousness can pass through species barriers and how strange that is. I talk about the human brain and how our brains create reality, but there is actually another reality out there that we can experience and is sublime. I talk about love and how love can be sublime. I talk about history and the past, on and on. If you experience just one of those 12 things that I have made around the circle, your life will be that much richer, because with your smartphones, your brains are your focus and your minds are getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Your focus is shrinking to the size of your phone.